Initializing. Yo, YouTube, what's going on? Welcome back to the yet to still be named, unnamed, John and Agnew show. I have glasses on. I'm John Agnew. Him and we became friends seventh grade around and bonded
One
over
of the
sports.
oh
And then it kind of grew into movies and movie making and all into that. And it's strange because we were never, it was like we were superhero fans, but we were always like into it a little more hardcore at like different times.
yeah.
And
Well, there weren't superhero movies like
right.
monthly, you
And
know.
and right. And you were like an A student, so like you could read, so you got into comic books. And I was just like, I can't do it. I can't like retain words yet.
well,
So then when I became 30 and my brain matured to that of a 17-year-old Agnew, I started reading comic books.
I mean, like for me, I was like if I'm trying to think back right now, why got started reading comic books was actually I really liked the Batman movie, like the Tim Burton Batman movie, and that
Hmm.
was what like '89 or something like that.
Yeah,
So I was pretty young
89.
seeing that. I also remember going to see like Batman Returns like soon after. But I also remember watching the Letterman interview with Kevin Smith when he was talking about Tim Burton making the Batman movie, and he was talking about Planet of the Apes, and he said like at the end of the Planet of the Apes for the Tim Burton version, um, the statue of sorry spoiler alert in case you guys need to. Mark Wahlberg runs around like he's confused and out of breath for an hour and a half. There's like some oddly attractive monkeys in it, and then at the very
Yeah.
end they have like you think he lands on Earth, but the twist is that he lands on some other version where there's an Abraham Lincoln, but it's a monkey. So it's
And
like
it's so
like
dumb because it's like, oh, I get it, alternate reality. But that is such a
it's
specific
so
alternate
specific. It's
reality that
like
they had their own monkey, Abe Lincoln,
and they
who had the
also
same life.
and they made a statue and put it in the same place. That means they also have like all the government's the same except for just faces are different. That's it.
The
Like
Washington Monument is
yeah.
to George Washington the monkey or the ape.
It was just like yeah, it
Pardon
was
me.
just everything was anyway. But he said, you know, I guess that was at Kev Smith had put that at the end of one of his comics as like a joke or something like that. He had like an Abe Lincoln, Ape Lincoln, I guess it would be the
Ah,
joke,
too easy.
and too easy. And so I guess he was talking to Tim Burton about this, and Tim Burton's like, "Wow, well, I didn't know I didn't know you did that ending. I don't really read comics." And Kevin Smith said, "Yeah, I know. I saw Batman." Right. So I always took that and I was like, "What did he mean by that? Like, what did he mean by I know you don't read comics. I saw Batman because I'm like I really enjoyed Batman. So it felt like kind of a conflict for me. So then I started going into reading Batman comics
Oh.
to try to understand what he meant by that. And I started off with like Frank Miller's Dark Knight and stepped through it. And I mean, he was right. And then I went the complete opposite, like the complete pendulum swing to just being the complete cynic, where I just like hated everything anybody trying to depict Batman. They were doing it wrong. They were not doing it right. I mean, I'm
I
at
don't
least
know if I would
calmer about it
call
today.
I don't know if I would have called you a cynic. Like, yeah, on the surface, it was like you're the guy that's like, well, the comics are better. They do it better in the comics. And it's like, well, yeah, but they're interpreting it and it's never going to be the same. But most of the like little twists that are in the comics that they like, for some reason, just are like afraid to do in like movies and TV when they adapt them.
Yeah.
Uh, it is what I feel like it's like, yeah, you don't have to do the whole exact same story, but there's these parts in there that make it so much more unique and so less generic of just a, hero's tale.
And that's kind of yeah, I mean that's a really good point and it's kind of like the like that's the problem with going into all this multiverse stuff already cuz the point of having the multiverse events or these big events that occur, it's a payoff from following the story through each step of the way, right?
Right.
So as you're going through it, you're there's a little piece of a story that happened way before that you're getting a payoff for, you know. Like in the Blackest Night, when it was when what's his name's one of the Green Lantern's girlfriends was Kyle Rayner's girlfriend was like in a fridge, like she comes out of the fridge because she got murdered and put in a fridge by like one of his arch nemesis or something like that. Like she comes out, like that was like, whoa, like I remember that. This is so messed up that this is the way they're showing this to me, you know. So it was kind of like these like little payoff moments when it comes to that, you know.
It was
um
like when Locke and Ben went into the, or when Locke went into the cabin and talked to Christian. It was like, oh my God, so many things
yeah,
colliding, all of it.
you wanted the episode to be like 5 episodes
Right.
and just be a calm podcast. Like you didn't want it to be like, there's nothing worse when you're like, these characters are finally together, like I cannot wait to see what they're gonna say, and you want it to just be like calm and not have them misunderstand one another. You want everything just to be fact, 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 fact.
No
But
vague, like all,
yeah,
I want them to ask all the questions and I want all their questions answered and I
yes,
want them to take their time and maybe like in the beginning have a certain idea, but at the end, maybe they've changed their mind, like, yeah, that's,
it always happens in the movies that they're always out of time though. Like they finally meet up and they're about to start talking and they're like, oh well, what happened to that guy? And they're like, well, and then it's like, and they're like, oh, we got to keep running. I'm like, no, you
I
don't.
know. Yeah, I
You're
know.
superheroes.
You want the movie where Luke and Anakin talk to each other for like 2.5 hours. That's all. That's the whole thing. Maybe a flashback here and there for like a minute.
Could just be a ghost. Why can't Anakin be a ghost? Does he come back as young Anakin or does he come
That's what
back
I'm
as old
saying.
Anakin?
He comes back as young Anakin because he's good. He wouldn't be the guy who turned to the dark side, according to Lucas.
But he was good at.
I'm a little flimsy on that.
I'm a little flimsy myself. I mean,
I feel like Anakin is the fool who
I don't
turned to
get
the
why you
dark
get. Well, I
side.
don't understand why you get to choose your age. I figure your age should just be when you're dead. Like,
Like
if you died
Obi-Wan.
when you're old, then you're gonna be a dead, like old ghost. Like you're not gonna be. You don't get to be like, I'll take 30, please. Like you don't get to just go back,
Right.
right? Because
Obi-Wan didn't come back as Ewan McGregor
no, he
as
even
the
needed
Force
to sit
Ghost.
down as a ghost. He had to
Yeah,
sit
he was
down.
like,
He was like, from a certain
"Is this
point of
tree?
view,
Is this
this
tree
bum
open?
knee force isn't helping my knee anymore.
You don't heal in the afterlife.
Kid, I aged 40 years and 2 years, but
The
whatever.
Clone Wars really took a lot out of me.
But only once I
Murdering
got
my
into
best friend.
it took a lot out of me, except for only when I got into a cave later on. It just caught up with me real fast. I got real old. Um,
So,
was, yeah.
you saw The Flash?
Yes, I saw The Flash.
Because we've got The Flash. I feel like since the last show, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Across the Spider-Verse, and The Flash have all
I saw those
been
three. Yeah.
shot. That's basically the point of my big rant in the beginning. Is that now we do live in a world where superhero movies are like once a month, and some of them are unbelievable, and it's like I can't believe they're pulling this off. Because remember when Batman in Batman Forever goes, "No, I know," or maybe he said it in the one with Clooney, but one of them said, "Now I know why Superman works alone." I was like, "Oh, are they gonna do it? Are they gonna bring Christopher Reeves or somebody?"
Oh God.
And and it was like when that idea came to my head, I was like, "Oh," and then 20 years later, it's like they're never gonna pull it off. So anyway,
Oh, just the fact that they said Superman, just the fact
just
that
the
they like
fact that
acknowledged, yeah.
they even like attempted like, well, another superhero could just come flying into this
Well,
movie.
I mean that like just that line fleshes out like, oh, like does that mean like he exists? Like what version of him exists? Like because we've already been through 4
Right.
Batmen, or
Right.
whatever. Like yeah. I mean, it kind of makes it real, but and I think for the most part it was legal problems. Like they weren't allowed to mention them. Otherwise, it's like you mention Superman, you have to like pay.
Right.
So it was kind of like nobody would ever think to do that. But then I think by that point it had opened up.
I bet you're right because I think Warner Brothers, I mean, yeah, they didn't have the rights to Superman. So like they could say his name, but they couldn't have the S or, the song
Yeah, and they
or
wouldn't
anything
let
like that.
more than one representation up. Like for some reason, they think people can't handle more than one Superman at any given time. They're like people will get confused. They will hate the concept. It's like so when they were making Smallville for so many years, which was actually supposed to be a Batman show. Like the pilot was written as a Batman show, and they wrote out a few of the episodes. And one of the episodes, he goes to Smallville, and then they were like, "Yeah, no, make the show about Smallville." So then they had to just pull
Uh,
that one episode about this like young Bruce Wayne, which would probably have saved them $1 billion, in cost because it just would have been a human. But then they pulled it back and made it Smallville. But then when Smallville was on, there was no Superman movies because they didn't want to confuse anybody that this is Superman and not that guy, right?
uh,
So that's why there was like this like huge, 5-6 year gap of Superman movies in between Smallville. So they
huh.
had stupid rules like that where it's like, no,
The,
we'll handle it. Like try us. We'll handle it.
I mean, it's funny just because the fact that like Marvel somehow got it all under one umbrella and DC is now going to really, for the first time, try doing that. Uh, because before it was like so many different people painting in the same paint. I don't know. It was like they
Yeah.
could never really. It was just weird
Well, I mean, DC in
and annoying.
general, DC in general needs to figure out how to make a movie, like beginning to end, have a plot. Like they cannot just throw. Like I feel like they just have a bunch of little napkins, like little post-it notes, and they're like, you know, oh, like two flashes. Okay, two flashes. All right, and then a joke about a peanut butter sandwich. Yep. Okay, joke about a peanut butter like, and then they babies falling out of a building. Okay, I'll write that down. And then they just like scoop it and then throw it at a visual arts guy and be like, make this a movie. Oh, okay, what order do you want in? Doesn't matter. Like, do you want the babies at the beginning? Doesn't matter. You could make them in the middle or the end. Just make it so we could put them wherever we want. It's like,
So we'll start with the Flash because I feel like that's probably the most
oh,
recent, and my experience watching it was quite unique. I saw it in a theater, and I got tickets to where this it's a auditorium or whatever it's called, uh, where a section of the seats are two little like not love seats, but they're like two seats together and like tucked in, like with like a little barrier
oh
wall
my
thing.
gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a first class
Um,
flight.
it's like, yeah. And, when Heather and I go, it's perfect because it's like we're on our own little thing.
I would be asleep. I would just
Uh,
fall instantly asleep. Like I cannot.
and oh yeah, I know. I
It's
make
too
sure I'm
comfortable.
like
They made it
well
too
rested
comfortable.
when
They
I go.
went they
It's
went past
borderline.
past it, not for my age. Maybe if I was like 18 and I was like really pumped to see something or something, but like you recline me, I'm like falling asleep. Like
I know,
you're
dude.
just rumbling me. I'm like, like
No,
it's
I don't
nice.
do the rumble. I
No.
don't do the rumble. I hate the rumble. I did Ant-Man with the rumble, and it's just it's not a Disney ride, and I'm 40 too, or
Yeah.
something like that.
Worse. Worse.
Um, so I got one of those seats because I went by myself to see the Flash, and it guarantees me 9 out of 10 times that the seat next to me will be empty, so I'll have my little area to myself.
Because nobody takes the second cuddle spot. No one's like,
Nah,
that one.
not unless you're a large, hairy man who just doesn't know
It'd
and
probably
just
be
bought the
fine.
last ticket available.
It'd probably be a good comic book guy. So it's
Well,
probably fine.
of course, this is a Flash movie. So this guy saw it was the last seat available, other than the first two rows.
Oh, so this was like a pack showing. This was like
Yeah, it was
very
opening night. It was
packed. Yeah. Oh,
Thursday. It was
okay.
sold
Opening
out,
night. Okay.
and I was like, I bet you this guy wouldn't care, because I hit my little weed pen when I'm in there, And I'm very discreet about it, but if I got someone sitting right next to me, it's tough to be discreet.
Yeah, I noticed it when we saw
And
X-Men. Yeah.
oh, nice. And I forgot I even was doing it then. Gosh. Uh,
Well, you needed it for that movie. Oh my god.
oh man,
That movie, like, they didn't finish it. They're like, just keep going, just keep filming.
the editing, it was like a music video for 2.5 hours. Anyway, so I was worried that this was going to happen. So I made sure that I went in, like, I was like the last person to go into the theater. So I walk around, I see him, and I act like I'm just, glancing. I make sure he doesn't notice me. And I just keep walking. And I'm like, oh, the only rows left are the first and second row. Now, the second row isn't crazy where, like, you don't have to do this, but you have to recline all the way. And it's still very difficult. So, dude, in the beginning, when he's running,
Yeah.
like, remember in the very, very beginning where he runs for like
Right.
probably like
Yeah,
a minute,
you follow him through like all the valleys and stuff
and he
like
runs on the water.
that. Yeah.
Dude, you're that close. It was IMAX. I was
Oh, it was
laughing.
IMAX. Oh.
I was laughing out loud, Agnew. Like, it was so awesome, like so incredible. I was laughing out loud. I was like, I can't believe this. This is unbelievable. And then from there, it was. I know all the complaints about the CGI. I was so close that I was like, "Ooh, it looks bad, but maybe it looks different far away, but I still get what's going on."
Yeah.
And that's all I was really concerned with, because I was so freaking close, and they slowed it down and he's running all around. So it didn't really bother me. And then all the, not to jump all over the place, but the stuff at the end, it didn't
You're
bother
jumping
me.
right to the end. Yeah.
It didn't, but I'm not going to get too specific. I just want to
I
say,
don't care about spoilers. People should have seen it already.
no, I mean, I'll get there, but I just want to say that it didn't bother me until they zoomed in on Nick Cage's face, and I was like, he's alive. What the hell? Like, I get the other ones, and it's like, okay, cool, and it's multiverse, so maybe they just look a little weird.
Yeah.
They're not gonna look perfect, like a mind's eye memory, like not perfect. But then when it was not even Nicolas Cage, I was like, yo, but he's here. And I guarantee you he was like, I'll do it. Like, I'll shoot it, because he's obsessed. He named his kid Kal-El.
Yeah, right. He would have been on board.
So that was the only thing that made me go,
I mean, it was
other than that, I loved it.
I don't know how we differ so much on these things.
That's why this is so good, because I knew it. I
God.
was like, he's gonna hate it, I can't stop thinking about it, and I want to go see it again. I loved the unpredictable part. Like, I didn't see how they.
What part wasn't predictable?
This how he couldn't save those two. I thought, like, oh, he's gonna eventually save them. And that kind of like took me back. I was like, oh shit. I didn't see this coming. I saw them eventually fixing it.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I guess,
because it was like, they're not gonna kill Keaton. Come on.
Well, yeah, no. I mean, I thought they were. Sorry,
I didn't see.
I'm being completely honest. I'm not being like guy who, like, if I could write it down on a piece of paper ahead of time and like hand it to you,
Dude,
like
I know.
I would. But I'm being completely honest. Like,
I know you are.
The problem is that there was, like, if you saw the movie The Time Machine or read the book, well, the book didn't really theme around this, but the movie definitely did, where the whole purpose is that, like, his girlfriend dies. Like, he's about to propose to his girlfriend, and his girlfriend dies, and he keeps going back in time. He builds the time machine to save her, but every time he goes back, there's another way that she ends up dying.
Right.
It's kind of like even Doctor Strange did it, right? Like, they kind of, I think I mentioned to you before, when they did the Doctor Strange What If, where he keeps going back, but she keeps dying. Like, no matter what, she keeps dying, right? Because that's like what's supposed to happen. That's
like
why
Groundhog Day.
It's kind of like a Groundhog Day effect.
Like, no matter what.
And so I I thought I was definitely hoping that he wouldn't die, right? Because it didn't really. I don't see what it would add to it, right? Like we know him, but we're also kind of getting to know him again. So to kill him is like I don't think it'll have the emotional pull that they were expecting, and that's the part that I struggled with because I'm like if they kill him, like I'm not gonna be upset. It's not like that's the end of his
Right.
line, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, like it's not the right Batman to be emotional about. Like I'm enjoying seeing the gadgets. I like that they kind of represented him as like the engineering type Batman, where he's got like a tape measure and he's asking like
Oh
he
yeah.
does like the how much do you weigh line and stuff, which I kept waiting for him to say. Um, so
So funny.
so that
You
part,
always are waiting on Easter eggs, and they always hit me like a ton of bricks, and I'm like, oh my god, they did that. Because I've seen it a million times, so literally every line in the movie is an Easter egg to me.
yeah,
So it's funny which ones they pick. Like the past the salt, I still
yeah,
do that joke at a big table.
yeah. That was no. I mean, it was amazing that they even had like the sets like the kitchen
Old
and stuff.
kitchen.
Yeah. So I
Oh
mean,
my gosh,
no,
my heart. I love that scene where Alfred's just like embarrassing him.
it was. I mean, it
You
was
know,
such a good. There's young Master Wayne covered
Right.
head to
Covered
toe,
in mud.
covered in mud. It's just like, it's
I
like,
know. I
oh,
love
you're
that
really
scene.
embarrassing, but that doesn't even sound like an embarrassing story though. It's
I
like
know.
it
It's
was such
like,
a simple story. It's like there
but
he is.
it was such a like there are few scenes like that in superhero movies where
Yeah.
like they're just being humans. Like
Yeah. Well, that's the problem, right?
when Rocket and Thor are like talking about like how much they've lost, and it's like
Uh,
it's like oh, all right, everybody's we can
well, look,
catch our
look,
breath.
look.
God damn it.
I came to this realization because I saw Guardians later than Flash. So I saw Flash, then I saw Guardians,
Oh, okay.
and I was like, Guardians. This is what made me sure of my opinion of the Flash, because seeing Batman die, seeing Christopher Reeve, his Superman, assumingly die since he smashed into another. Like I don't know if
Oh
that was
yeah.
an actual event that occurred or that also got undone.
Oh right. Yeah.
I don't know what was happening there, but it looked like
Me
they were
neither.
sad, and it looked like like the worlds
You're like,
crashed into each other for some reason.
oh.
Um, he also just stood there and watched it, like he was just like a
Right.
sad puppy, which was like that doesn't seem like what Superman would do. He wouldn't just be like, "Hi, Supergirl, let's
Instead
watch the
of
sunset of our existence," right?
instead
Like
of an
of of
S,
of reality.
they all their shirts should have just been like fan service.
Yeah,
We're here for fan service.
just there should just be like a little member berry icon in the corner, like put your glasses on, like it's
This was
happening.
this was free.
I mean, like, I swear, I thought we talked about this already. Like, I thought we talked about like the Nicolas Cage like cameo being in there or something like that because we brought it up in the last podcast. The fact that when we were talking about that he was going to fight a spider in the third act and all those things.
Hmm.
So the fact that was in there was like kind of cool, but also I feel like that whole scene, that whole fan service, like with globes floating around, was just weak. Like, just a very weak way of doing it. Like, it just was not like if you have it right. If
You're
someone's like,
right.
"Can I make a Christopher Reeve Superman?" I'm allowed to, and they're like, "Yeah." And it's like, okay, can I have him stand on top of a building and look through a little portal? Like that just seems like such a waste of what you have. Like maybe you're under a crunch, maybe they just add it all in at the last minute, like once Flash got arrested for the 18th time or something like that. They were like, get Christopher Reeve, and like maybe it was just some kid like on his Mac, like working really hard for the last month, and they threw it in there. But if it was originally supposed to be in there, my biggest beef with that part is the fact that you don't have Michael Keaton interact with that version of Superman. Like it's the
Oh
closest
man.
like interacting.
They were in the same movie, but it's like you say it with an asterisk. It's like
Yeah.
they weren't really in the
But they
same
also
movie.
wouldn't mean anything to each other because he didn't know what Superman was, right?
Right.
So again, like a lot of these reactions, like even the Flash's reaction, like whoa, like look at like he doesn't know Nicolas Cage Superman. He has no feelings towards Nicolas Cage Superman. It could be a cosplay, it didn't even actually happen for us, so we don't even know how to feel about Nicolas Cage Superman. You know what I
It
mean?
was so many
So
things.
it's like so many layers of not feeling that I'm
Right.
like, I don't know what you want me to do, you know? And again, it was like they use the Superman music like every once in a while to kind of trick you, or even the Batman music to kind of trick you into like feeling something in a certain moment, just like they did for the original Justice League movie that got me so mad in like the Superman scene when they played the Christopher Reeve Superman theme, which I originally wanted back in Man of Steel. Like I wanted it to be along the lines of the Christopher Reeve Superman, maybe different, but I wanted the theme, and they never gave me the theme. So now I don't want it at all. Like
I know, and
don't just
Hans Zimmer,
throw.
I like him. He kind of missed it on Superman with me. I mean, I like the dun, 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 but it has like 15 seconds of what John Williams does for like 5 minutes.
I mean, it just doesn't give you the like. It's the same. It's just John Williams. Like I don't know how else to explain it. Like I'm sure if he did Batman, I think it might actually. I think it probably would have been better than Danny Elfman's.
I
I'm gonna
agree.
go ahead and say it.
Elfman has
But I mean, that was iconic. I mean, it was
I know,
iconic.
but Elfman has a I don't know, like
Like
a
a bumpiness,
small,
like bum
yeah,
bum
like a ding,
bum
ding, ding,
bum
ding, like,
bum bum
oh, this
ding
isn't
doo doo
that
doo 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 doo.
grand. John Williams is better at his job than anyone else in the world is at their job.
I bet John Williams can't. Oh man, this is a hard sentence to finish. I bet John Williams can't do a Tim Burton movie though. I
Right.
don't
I know
think
what you
they.
mean.
I doubt they would be able to agree. Like I think Tim Burton needs Danny Elfman to do like these like bloom dim
Yeah.
dim dim
Oh,
dum dum
yeah,
dum
they're
because everything's
synonymous.
so wacky,
Yeah,
you know.
it's so weird. I don't know if that's because they produce so many things together that for us now they're like entwined,
Yeah.
or if it's just yeah, it's like they were that is a composer and a director who it's almost like they will never not share the same vision,
Yeah.
and they're both so weird.
And
And
so
Elfman's not even like he was never a composer. He was like something else.
something else.
Elfman's
I don't know.
background is so strange. Like it's he like
He was a
stumbled into it or
he just
something.
played at the mall and
It's a
was like
weird
bum bum.
story. It's
Somebody was
interesting.
just walking by and he was just doing like a theme for them as they walked by.
It was just tapping.
He just
He was
he was a
homeless.
drum guy, yeah.
He was a spoon man on the streets of Baltimore.
I would watch that movie. I'd watch that. That would be like yeah, like a new one, like a new Whiplash. Um but the end of it also reminded me of the 2009 cartoon of uh Ninja, like it was like Turtles Forever. It was Ninja Turtles. It
Oh,
was like the 2009 Nickelodeon cartoon pulled the 90s turtles out and they had to kind of like work together
oh weird.
to fight the 2009's version of Shredder. And in the midst, like the other Shredder comes out, and like the 90s
Oh,
Krang and
weird.
90s Bebop and Rocksteady come out. So it's like this combination of, it was kind of a dumb film. Honest, I mean, like it was for kids, obviously, but it was also just lightened up. Like they were never really like in danger of anything. Like they kept
Oh,
making
right.
jokes, and it would be like, "How are we gonna get there?" And they're like, "We know, dudes." And then all of a sudden, they're like all just traveling in the blimp, and they're like, "This is really slow." And they're like, "Yeah, but just wait, you detach
I
from it."
like
And then
that. That's
they're
so
going super fast.
cool. I
So
like that. Even if the story is like a C minus, it was like what they did, not really what they did, but the Chippendale Rescue Ranger, whatever that
oh yeah, that
movie.
was a lot like it too. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Well, it kind of
That
just
was
gave
so
you,
clever.
like, you knew what you were getting into with it. Like, it wasn't like you're like, this is going to be fan
It
service.
it
Thank you,
was like they
please.
reminded you 100 times. Andy Sandberg and, like, Colin Jost wrote this movie.
Right. Yeah. Just so you
Just a
know.
reminder,
Just so
they're
you know.
from Saturday Night
It like
Live.
comes up on the bottom like a scrolling text every once in a while, like a little crawl. But
That was funny.
at the end of the Ninja Turtles movie, it's like Shredder. He's got them all captured, and they're all chained up in this spinning thing. And he's like, I've learned that I must destroy the
The bowl of
turtles.
death.
Like, if I just destroy you, it doesn't stop the cycle. Like, because there's many iterations across the turtle multiverse. And he actually says multiverse.
The
And then
Turtleverse.
all these screens start popping up, and it shows like the real life, 90s movie of the
Oh, no
turtles, and it shows like
way.
all these different like versions from
The
like the
black and white
comics.
comic?
So that's where they have to end up going. He's
When
like,
they're
I
all
have to
red?
go back to the
Ooh.
beginning. I found one world where it all started. And they go in there, and it's like all the turtles are like still like their normal like green and everything, but they're in like the old comic book
Yeah,
style, like
like the
all like
rated
the
R
it's
one.
all like, yeah. And like
Hell's Kitchen.
the other turtles like show up, and they're like, who are you? Like, they're like, how do you guys tell each other apart? They're like, shut up, like, it's like, it was good. It was
Oh,
good.
man,
But
I
it
wanna
went back
see
to
it.
like, Prime, and Raphael was like, I like this place, this place,
Oh,
because he's basically
yeah.
like
Right.
the
He's
only
the
one
one
that
that
acts still
crossed
like the
over.
comic. Yeah, everyone else got a
Right.
different personality. So,
Everybody
um,
else got,
but that's all I thought of.
woke.
Honestly, I'm watching the Flash thing, and it was just all, I'm like, okay, so Turtles Forever, like that,
Yeah.
because it's just because they did the same thing in that, where it's
Oh,
just
right.
showing me, like, it's just showing me Christopher
Right.
Reeves. It's
That's
just
yeah, it's
showing me George Reeves. It's showing me, um, the West, Batman and stuff. So I don't know.
yeah, I
For
really feel like Andy Muschietti was trying to, like, do in one movie what, like, maybe Snyder and, the Warner Brothers team was hoping that that universe could do over many movies, like, do a multiverse kinda, and they just squished it all in with Flash because of the time travel, and they brought it. I liked how, um, it was like a sad ending, but also like a trick happy ending when he with the tomato can, how it was put up and he looked up. Uh, so that was interesting. But what about Guardians was different
Well, one thing
for
I
you?
noticed was that the otter with robotic arms made me feel more than the entirety of the Flash movie. Like, I
Dude,
was I was insanely sad for this completely CGI character that somehow had more acting ability than anybody in the Flash movie, bar Michael Keaton. I don't know. Like, I was just like, okay, so this, like, I know this is a silly movie. I know this movie is like full of jokes, but all of the jokes were good. And I started getting the theme about halfway through, that it was, everybody has their place and everybody has a purpose. And maybe it's just going to kind of be feel good towards the end and stuff. But it kind of
oh
gave
yeah, I loved the
everybody
end.
not just an origin, but like a destination. That's how I feel, right? Like, we knew their origins. Like, maybe we never knew Rockets, so we were starting to get his, and then we find out what everyone's destination is. Like, what's their next step? Because honestly, that's the same question that we've had since Thanos, right? What's everyone's next step now? Like, you saved half the universe. What's the next thing you're going to do, right? Like, where do you go from here? And at least this movie, of all the Marvel movies, was saying this is where they're going. And yeah, they're like separating and breaking up sort of, or something like that, but that happens almost all the time in all the movies, right? Like, every team has to disband for a while.
Hmm.
But I just really liked the fact that it was like that everybody was getting their destination. Like, everyone kind of, completed some sort of arc, and some of the arcs were like within the movie itself, and some of the arcs were across the whole volumes. You
Hmm.
know, I just it surprised me. I didn't think I was gonna like it because I didn't really like how they were represented in the Thor movie. You know, it kind of just
Oh
like
yeah, well that's
I
because
thought
of the pandemic.
what is.
It was
Well, no,
supposed to
look,
be in
look,
reverse
no.
release.
See, this is where I differ with you because I'm not giving them excuses for the pandemic. Like, if you can't make a good movie, don't make a good movie. I
Yeah.
mean, well, that's what they did, but I mean, don't
Yeah, I know, because they have
like
those dumb deadlines. So it's like there was a better plan, but the pandemic shifted so many things that they had to like scrap it and come up with one last minute just so they could get it out on their, mandated deadline.
yeah, but
Those release dates that for some idiotic reason they make. Non-artistic people create deadlines for art. And that's what, and I agree, dude. It was like
yeah,
that was it was like the Guardians ran by the restaurant and I smelled them.
yeah, right.
That was the meal that I got.
Yeah, it was like, and we were kind of hoping for like this as Guardians of the Galaxy, where it would be
Right.
like Thor teaming. I thought it would just go right into Volume 3, and it would be like Thor with them, and that would kind
Yeah.
of add like a bit of a mix to it. You know, like I don't know how much longer you could carry out the "Oh yeah, I'm a lot like Thor" joke. You know, because that was even in Ant-Man too. But I mean, it's like I don't know. You could probably hold it for a while.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I,
by the way,
but I agree.
In the Ant Man, I think they missed a joke. They missed a lot of jokes in Ant Man, but I feel like they missed a joke when Scott Lang was getting beat up that he should have started to say the Captain America line. Like he should have started to say like, "I could do this all," and just get hit in the
Oh,
middle
yeah.
of it or something like that. Like it would have been a perfect joke for that scene because he was
Dude.
just getting so walloped, and it would just like and he always like his whole character is that he's like trying to kind of be an Avenger, you know, like he's not
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
quite the
Yeah.
Avenger, you know, and he's like
Yeah.
friends with Cap. Like, oh my gosh.
They gave that to Modoc instead. Remember, he was like, "At least I got to die an Avenger."
Yeah, right. That
Like,
was pretty funny. I
yep.
thought that like that was like an okay joke. It was kind of weird because I think it was just awkward for everybody in the scene and everybody for like I
I
don't know.
died.
I was
I
fine with
thought it was
that.
so
Yeah, I
funny.
thought that was
I just
funny.
wish they didn't make it like, yo, the new huge bad guy of all the new movies is gonna be an Ant-Man. But it's like, but he wasn't really the bad, like
I never
it's
knew
still
MODOK, so
Ant-Man.
it didn't bother me.
I didn't either. I
It's not
thought it
like
was
he was
so
like the
funny.
Riddler or something. Like I don't care about what representation he has.
It makes amazing sense.
It just
He got it
it kind
crushed in the first one and shrunk down to I mean, there you go. There he is. He's a big head.
it sort of happened, yeah. So
I
I
thought
mean,
it was funny.
yeah, once I pieced that together,
Modafk.
I was fine with it, and I didn't think he looked so bad, like as everyone like made it out to be. But then also um,
Oh my gosh.
I think the problem was is that he lightened the mood a bit too
Yeah.
much.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if he was gonna be
He lightened the mood.
confused, yeah, it was
The daughter becoming like an Avenger, like you're like, well, she's not gonna die. Like the stakes of these movies, they don't have to be end of the world,
right.
but they don't. They need to stop selling them as
Well,
that.
especially Ant-Man. Well, that's I think that's what I liked about the Guardians of the
Guardians.
Galaxy. It was
I know.
self-contained. This guy over here is playing with his toys. He's playing on his own little globe, and
Yes.
it's still affecting people, but nobody knows it's happening. He's extinguished it several times. He starts it up again. He murders life over and over, and and that sounds so. It's like this little crime that's happening in the middle of nowhere, you know, and they need to go in and they can't stand for that, right? So it's a little bit connected to the other stories and stuff. I think it was I was just so
Un-
relieved. Like I think that's why I liked it so much because I'm like, oh, finally, it's not the end
I
of the
agree.
world.
I agree. I agree, dude. I cried like I don't more I think than any movie I've ever watched because the Guardians movies have a super special place in my heart. Hannah and I used to watch the second one every day for like 6 months straight when
Yeah,
I was unemployed and I had to, I was at home with her. So, and Gunn, ever since then, everything he's made, I think is awesome. I think he's just such a great director. It's just so easy to watch his stuff
yeah,
and his writing. It's like you can tell he writes it 50 times and he just keeps rewriting it until it's like, yeah, that's the, like he really is pretty neat. That's why I'm pretty positive about DC going forward,
Well, I hope
because they're
so.
because they're
I,
in his hands.
I want it. I want it.
It's
But
like
I need
it,
better dialogue and I
it
need a plot. Like it cannot just be like the Flash was like all the stakes and none of the stakes.
right.
Like it was like all the
That's what it
stakes,
was.
but also a joke. Like I was like, I don't understand what's happening here.
It's like one of those big budget movies with a story that goes nowhere. You should see this new move.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah. So I see. Like I can see where you hated Flash, but for me, there was like so many parts where I was like, I got past the parts that I'm like, oh, Agnew would hate that, and I think it's bad too. But like, I just can like move past it,
Well, look, oh,
and
sorry, go ahead.
I don't have like as many like parallels to draw it to.
Well, that's not
Like I
the
don't think
yeah.
about the turtles. I haven't seen a better version of that done
Yeah, I think
with
that's the
turtles.
problem. Like that's the problem. That was the problem I had with the Wonder Woman movie because I'd seen an actual Wonder Woman movie that had a better opening and was like a way more intense, way more like just thoughtful opening as far as showing all the characters, introducing everybody, all within a 2 minute period, and you felt something by the end of it. Like movies need to start with kind of an up type
Right.
thought process. Like maybe you don't accomplish that, but I think you should start. Like you should get hooked. And I really enjoyed the beginning of most of all the Guardians of the Galaxy movies because they both start with kind of like a wonder, but also like you're wondering what's going on. Like in the first one, you know
Oh yeah.
he's sort of like relaxed, but things are intense. But then he's dancing, so you're like,
Oh
what's going
yeah.
on here? Like,
Oh
who's
yeah.
this guy?
Right.
So it was kind of a good introduction.
He
It,
gets
it
made
like,
fun of.
well, it also let you know that you're not in like I think we just got off like Thor and Captain America. Like everything was just by the book, comic book movie. They got by because you knew that they were maybe going to get tied together later on, but they weren't like tear jerkers or
Mhm.
emotional. Like you weren't emotionally invested in them. You were like, okay, well, I finally get Thor on screen. Like I finally get Captain America, where there's not
Yeah, that's
a
what it
million
was.
cuts,
It's like I
or
can't
terrible
believe.
costumes.
Right. It was like, it looks a little shitty, but I think it wasn't bad. Yeah, it was like when they kept improving the way that it looks and the way that it's like, oh, I could imagine him just kind of like walking around like that. That's when that's when I was like, oh, they're like making this to where I don't have to like suspend so much in my head
Well, you also
that
didn't have
it's
to
like
like
exhausting.
you didn't have to like memorize worlds. You didn't have to like memorize everybody's name. You didn't have to like memorize everybody's powers. Like everything was like slowly introduced to you.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
you're like, okay, that guy's a tree. All right, that's the tree guy. Like I don't really. This is named Groot. That sounds a lot like Root. I'm gonna be easy. This is gonna be easy. I'm gonna remember like that guy. And what's that guy's name? Rocket Raccoon. All right, alliteration, right down my alley. Like this is great. And and he had to really explain everybody, but it was almost a breath of fresh air because there wasn't as much weight on it, right? Because nobody really knew who they were except for like hardcore comic book fans, and even within them, there wasn't many people who knew them. So I liked it. And then the second one started off where it was kind of like we're having fun with our friends, like
Right.
they're
We're
doing their
superheroes.
job and they're having fun, but they're not really in danger. Like you knew they weren't going to die in the beginning of the thing. Like they're kind of
Right.
indestructible. At least
They're arguing over music.
yeah, they're invincible at this moment. So you could kind of like relax and get into the movie again, and then start to understand the odds again, right? And
Right.
then the third one was kind of, I thought it was interesting how like depressing it was in the beginning. Like how everybody's kind of down, like they're dealing with the fallout from everything that happened in the other movies. And
Uh-huh.
I thought that was kind of neat because it kind of subverted me because I thought it was honestly going to be like just like the second one, like we were going to go in and sing and dance, and I don't know, we've got 25-year-old Groot who's going to be doing something else silly, like I don't know. So I think the fact that it didn't do what I expected in the beginning, and then started telling the story right away. I feel like it was like a bit rushed in the beginning of it, just to kind of, because they were trying to like set up like Quill and
Yeah, yeah, right,
Rocket at the
yeah.
same time, and
That
sometimes
was
like some of their reactions weren't really correct in the very beginning, but I kind of understood it once the two paths started moving.
yeah, yeah, you're right, it was, but yeah, I feel like all of a sudden I was like, "Shit, this movie it's all laid out already," like, they got like, Rocket's dying
Yeah,
6 minutes into this movie. Like, that was crazy, like, that
yeah,
blew me away. I was like, "The whole movie, he's gonna be, like, on the deathbed? Genius!
and
Like,
it was yeah.
genius!"
The kill switch was an interesting idea. Like I wouldn't have thought of
Oh,
something like that, so that was kind of neat. And
and he
then
turned it
like
off and just dropped.
yeah,
It was so good. Rocket Raccoon.
and then the Gamora like being, stubborn and not really being, you know, like she's like basically saying like I am not going to be your Gamora. I thought that was really great. I even liked at the end where everybody's hugging and she like takes like a little step, like it was thought
Oh,
out, right? Like
yeah.
she takes like kind of like a little step forward, like looks at them. She doesn't like she's not like repulsed by it. Like you can tell she kind of thinks about joining the hug for a moment, and then she turns around and walks off screen. It's like
Joins Rocky.
great. That's great. Like because
That
that
all makes sense.
now you're building character, because I could see
Right.
that she was making a decision and she made a decision, and I don't know if it was the right one. And I don't know what I'd do in that situation, right? Like so I don't know if she's doing it because she's stubborn. I don't know if she's doing it because she doesn't
Because
feel
she's the
like she's
daughter of
oh
Thanos,
my
who they
gosh.
just killed. Like,
Right.
when she was with, them in the first and second one, Thanos was still alive. She was, like, trying to get away from him.
Yeah. She wasn't like on her mission to go kill him. Like
Right.
so it was great. I thought it just was handled with care is basically what I'd say, because
Thoughtfulness and
a-
care.
and sticking to their characters. I think the like when I think of DC, and I'm sorry I'm rambling so long here, but
Stop.
with
Sorry. Yeah, yeah, keep your mouth shut on this podcast where we talk
well, no,
for
I
an
want to
hour.
give. I feel like sometimes I'm not giving you a chance. I just have so many thoughts in my head, and I just want to get them out. With DC, it's like I don't. First off, they don't write the characters correct. Like they're just not the right characters. It's not Superman. That's not Superman's thing. Like Superman's thing is being in control and saving everybody he loves, right? Like he's got to be in control. If you want to play on like the last son of Krypton, do that, but do it in a way that makes it more interesting than it's been done before, right?
Right.
Like I said, make the first Man of Steel movie about brotherhood. Make the second movie about him thinking about that. Like, like in Batman v Superman, maybe he doesn't know if he belongs with the humans. Maybe he's thinking about the fact that he had to
Mm.
kill one of his last brothers that he could have maybe talked out of, or maybe he could have explained something to him. Like maybe he doesn't want to side with the humans right away. Like maybe he doesn't want to join Batman's Justice League. Batman wouldn't set up the Justice League. That doesn't make any sense. Like he doesn't trust
I know.
Superman. It doesn't make any sense. He should be the last person to join the Justice League, not set it up.
Right. He was Cap. There's this Illuminati in Marvel.
Right.
And it's like all the leaders of all the groups, and like Cap's in it, but like he comes and goes because half the time he's like, I don't agree, with what you guys are doing.
Yeah. It was
It's
like
like
Reed
Batman.
Richards
It's
and
like, well,
stuff,
I'm
right?
gonna go do my own mission.
Yeah. Right. Like
Yeah.
even like I remember even the cartoon got Batman, right? Because I remember one time they were going to turn themselves in, and they called Batman. They're like, we've been framed for this murder or something, but we're going to go turn ourselves in because it's the right thing to do. And Batman's like, well, that's by far the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And I'm not going to turn myself in. So, and he just hangs up on them, and they're like, oh, Batman. But,
That's so good.
but
So I'm not gonna turn myself in.
he's like, yeah, that is yeah, but
Moron.
he says by far that is the dumbest idea I've ever heard. And then he like hangs up on them. And I'm like, this is a kid show. Yet
Conroy.
they gave him like enough honesty to the character to be like, no, Batman wouldn't Like somebody
Right.
talked about
Yes.
it, right?
Right. Right.
They're like,
Right.
okay, so all 7 of them
He
are in
doesn't care about
in a
morals.
plane and going in, right? It's like, no, Batman wouldn't.
Right.
And like
Moral.
when you see them all join in the comics and stuff, he's always like Batman's always like up in the rafters somewhere. I mean, sometimes he's down with everybody else, but like oftentimes he's like up in the rafters, like just he's almost like spying on everybody. Like he doesn't trust he trusts a very small amount of people. And actually in the comic in like the Identity Crisis was when he discovered that like somebody erased his memory, right? Because he saw something terrible and they erased his memory. And so then he really didn't trust everybody. So then he made
Oh,
robots
right.
that could destroy everybody, and then they got
Contingency
out of control.
plans.
The OMAC
Uh,
project.
oh,
But
yeah.
but um
Brother Eye.
yeah, Brother Eye, yeah. Well, also the death of Ted Cord in that one. So
Ted Cord.
but the like
Ted.
I think my biggest problem with the Flash, and like right from the beginning, it kind of had that the Last Jedi type humor where it wasn't the right universe humor. Like I don't
Oh, yeah.
Barry Allen isn't a funny character. He is not Spider-Man. Like it's Barry
I
Allen.
know. They wanted him to be Peter.
He's like by the book. Like
Well, they
he's
wanted him to be Spider-Man. Peter's
well
not funny.
like Barry Allen is more of a like a virtuous staple, right? Like he's not it's not that he's not funny. Like he definitely would say funny things and like make quips to like make maybe his rogue gallery. But I think they mix up Barry with Wally West, and I think Wally West is a bit more of a jokey type Flash. And so when I see, you know, this interpretation of Barry Allen where he's like almost like autistic or something. I don't know what he is, you know, but like
Well,
there's
he's
some sort of
18. 16?
but I don't know, like but it conflicts with like what like he's on his way to like his dad's sentencing or something in like a courtroom, like but he's like joking with people about like selfies and like I get that he has to like eat something, but also like I don't know, it just bothers me. It just like all the joking in the beginning just bothered me because I'm like, well, what's the mood here? And then also like a
Yeah.
building's falling down,
Yeah.
and they make the building falling down be silly, and I'm like, okay, that can't possibly be the last people in the building. Like
Dude, that is so dead on because when the windows broke and I go, Jesus Christ. But then I go, oh yeah, Flash is fast. He's going to save them all. But like, maybe it could have been dogs or like not babies. Anything else? Glass objects? That you're right. The tone immediately was like conflicted. Ah! And it was like when Supergirl was like,
who would have a nursery by the windows anyway? The babies
when
need to
she,
sleep. Like it's
all
like it
glass.
just sense doesn't make sense. Like you would have to just be blocking sunlight all day long. Like the babies are asleep. It's the neonatal. Oh, jeez. Sorry.
I
Anyway.
know why is it on the top floor? I liked how Supergirl like denied them the first time, but then it was like 3 minutes later, she's like, "I'll help you fight Zod." I was like, that could have you could have stretched that a lot longer, like it's into another movie, perhaps. You know,
Well, they could have got to her a lot sooner. Like they
faster,
didn't
right?
really
Yeah,
need like the
she came in way
Barry,
late.
like the Barry, like room scenes and stuff where he just it's like Freaky Friday. Like we have like a half an hour of
I
this
know,
like
I
conversations with
know. It
yourself and
felt
then
like a TV show.
like a monologue. It's like just skip it. I don't need them to learn friction. Like I don't need them to learn all these like I felt like I was watching like the first episode of like the TV show or something, and like I don't need all this.
Yeah, it
It was
felt
just
like I was like, "Are you doing a TV show? Or are you doing a movie?" Because if this is a 10 episode show and you can take your freaking time, good. Like, here's another thing. I'm so tired of old men being depicted as God, like with the long gray hair and the long beard. Like, yeah, I know it kind of is supposed to signify
yeah,
like
did he
they
become a
gave up,
wizard or
but
something?
it's just so fake looking all the time. And it's like, also, are they you know, head and shoulder. Are they using like shampoo and conditioner from a salon every day because it looks magnificent, like Luke Skywalker in Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah,
It was like
it's the blue
you
milk
live on an
or green
island.
milk.
You don't have a comb,
Just rubs it in.
and it looks immaculate. I
Well,
hate
Bruce
it.
Wayne's a millionaire, billionaire, so maybe he's got all the beard oils and stuff that. You know.
I do.
But
I
why is
will
he making
say
like terrible spaghetti? Like that's the other thing. It's like he succeeded in saving Gotham,
Gotham. That
which
was
was the
pretty
whole
interesting.
point of becoming Batman. So it's not like he's lost his purpose. That was his purpose. He succeeded. He should be like happy Bruce Wayne. Like
And
I don't
well,
understand why he's a hermit at this point.
because he always still wants to be Batman.
But he never wanted to be Batman. That's the purpose of Batman. Like that's the thing.
I
He
thought
he he fights
he
against losing himself as Batman. Like his parents were murdered, so he wants to end crime. If he ends
right,
crime, then he can put down the cow like he did in the movie. But that doesn't mean he's ultimately depressed and he
right,
needs to go fight more
right,
crime.
right. He could be
Like
relaxed.
then he would just go create crime. Like it's pretty easy to create crime. Like uh, it just
Um,
didn't make sense why he was like a hermit. Like it would have made more sense if he was like only Bruce Wayne, right? And then they like approached Bruce Wayne and he's just like doing like a charity event or having an outreach to another city somewhere or something. The other thing they
right,
said
like show him like
the,
successful.
the other thing that bothered me is
Yeah.
they said Uber. Like that
Oh, they
really
did.
bothered me. Yeah. They said like
Hmm.
did you get an Uber or something like that and I'm like
You want
DC
him to
is
say taxi?
well DC is not DC's like a little bit different than Marvel, right? Because it
It's a
does and
made
it
up world.
doesn't. Like sometimes there's
They
like
have
our
red lights.
cities, but not always, right? Like it's like
Right.
Gotham is like something mixed between like Chicago and New
Chicago.
York,
Yeah.
but then, you know, um Metropolis is New York, but it's not, right? And then sometimes there is like a city, like sometimes when you're reading the comics, it's like they go to New York and you're like, okay, so there is New York, but there's also Metropolis, like
Right.
it's kind
Yeah.
of
Right.
confusing.
That's what another thing. You should listen to Rosenbaum, James Gunn. It's like an hour and a half interview. You know, the guy who played Lex Luthor in Smallville. He's got a
Oh yeah, I
podcast.
like that guy. Yeah. And he
Yeah,
did the
inside
Flash,
of it.
Wally West, yeah.
He's actually in Guardians 3. Uh, he has like a cameo. He's the guy with that like glass face. But anyway, um, he he talks about how he's like Marvel is here. It's on Earth. It's in New York City. He's like, what I love about DC is it's a made up world. It's fantasy. It's Gotham City. And he started naming all of them, and I was like, oh man, if he like really makes that also like a really consistent backdrop of everything, that'd be pretty neat.
Yeah. I mean, I would lean more into it. I mean, I know the comics have
It's tough, right? There's like holes.
well, they
It's like
have them
what?
they have them visit real places like but sometimes those were like special events. Like I know they go to like Washington D.C. a lot because otherwise it's not America, right? So it's kind of like I guess you have to go to the capital, right? Um, and then, but yeah, I mean, like for me, I think I forgot where I
Oh,
was going with that, but I feel like they should just lean into the fact that it's like a different world completely.
yeah.
So when they say jokes that are only within our world, it just kind of yanks me out of it like immediately. And I know that's just me, but it's like as soon as he said Uber, I'm like,
No,
oh,
it does to me too. I just
stop.
didn't hear it. But yeah, when they say things like that, I'm like, Central City has Uber. I would prefer them to say taxi or cab. Just
Yeah.
keep it that
Or
forever.
just not have the joke. Like I forget what it was. They just I forget what they said, but it's just like just
Oh,
let me
right. I'll
show
get
up.
you
I
an
just remember
Uber.
hearing it. Yeah.
Yeah, that
No,
was
no, it wasn't even that. It was like, "Oh, how'd you get here? Like like Uber or something? Like some app?" Like I forget. It was like
yeah.
some app joke or something, but I was like, I can't. I can't.
I did like the joke with the Wonder Woman lasso. I know they did it with Aquaman, but I thought that was so, because it was like he kind of like was mumbling it, and like I feel like you were laughing over the first thing he says, where he's like, "My ego is too massive to thank anyone for helping me."
They should have just. I think they
I
should have
thought
just stopped
Affleck
there. Yeah,
nailed it,
yeah.
and
That
he's
was.
like, "Why do I fight? Why don't I just give all my money and help the poor?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my god!" I thought that was, and then like Flash was like, "I know what sex is, but like I have no interest in having it. Is that okay? Even though I'm 30 or 40 or something like that." I was like, "Oh man, if that was the scene and that's how the movie ended, I will clap my hands."
There were like a lot of there seemed to be a good amount of sex jokes in the movie, and I couldn't tell what
A lot of-
age the movie was for because it was
There
so
was
goofy.
there was like
Like,
an F and a lot of S's, a lot of shits.
yeah, they love DC loves their shits. Like they just love their shits. Like you watch Titans, it's like they're like, all right, just fit some dialogue around these words, because they just can't get around the concept that maybe you just use it every once in a while. Like even Star Trek in the Picard season 3, they were allowed to use them, but anytime you heard them, you're like, ugh. Like it's like because they're also in the future. Like they're not.
Oh
They're
right.
like we're supposed to kind of have eliminated some of these things, right? And then also, I mean, I don't mind it so much, but it definitely yanked me out, like the curses. I don't know.
Yeah,
So,
me too. Because the crowd, I mean, obviously the crowd's primarily kids. I went to like a 6 o'clock show, so it was like families. Everybody was laughing. Everything, pretty much everything he said with shit in it, and I was like, man, they are raining shits in this movie,
yeah,
and somebody's gonna get pink eye. But I loved the first F bomb dropped in any Marvel movie by Chris Pratt, and it was like so like it wasn't big. It wasn't even like during a fight. It was just like you open the fucking door. like,
that
like
was
any
that. Yeah,
everyone has said that. Open the fucking door.
yeah. Just open the fucking door. Yeah,
Like
getting the
it
goddamn
slips
car,
in.
Marie. Yeah,
Right?
just
Like it was so natural and it wasn't written and
well, that I think that helps it, right? Like I think it's just
right.
funnier because it's like that's how you would use it. Like in the other scenarios, they just use it as like toughness, and it's like this guy fights crime. He has batarangs on his waist. I don't think I need somebody to tell me like the other. You know what? That just reminded me. That's the other thing that was happening a lot in the movie, and it happens in a lot of movies, and I can't ignore it anymore. When
What?
somebody does something and somebody else goes, "That's awesome."
Oh
It
god.
absolutely drives me nuts. It's like you can't just let it be awesome.
Yeah,
You have to
no, no.
tell me that I need to know that it's awesome. And it just
Well,
makes me so angry. It
but
happens in so many.
but yet again, James Gunn, he does things that it's in other movies they're like cheesy, but he's like he has this like self-aware twist where it when I was convinced that Star-Lord was dead when he got like stuck on
Oh yeah.
space,
Yeah.
and then he comes back
Started
and
like
his face is
blipping out.
coming back to normal after they save him, and he's like, "Did that look cool?"
No, I like that.
I was
That
like,
makes sense.
yes.
Right? Like that's
Because
like
I was so scared. I was like, no,
well,
no,
it
they
was like a
killed it.
catchphrase that they were using, right? Like Groot
Right.
did it and then he did it.
Nebula,
Yeah, Nebula did
right.
it. Yeah, did that look
Yeah.
cool?
And
Yeah,
in
like
space.
it's well, that was like friends trying to top one
Right.
another, like right. So that it still fit within the movie, right? But
And when Adam Warlock came floating in, because Heather and I, dude, were both like this.
yeah,
Because I was
because
like,
they could have done it. They could have
no.
done it.
Like,
Like you're like it felt a bit like Chris Pratt was like nearing the end of wanting to be Star Lord. Like it kind of like in that movie, it didn't feel like he was giving 1,000% like he had in the other movies. Like I feel like this is like so in the back of my mind, I'm like, maybe this could be it. You know?
in all the like press, like leading up to it, he was vague. And Batista was like, I'm done. And then all the women were like, besides Zoe Saldana, like they were all like, yeah, we hope to do more. We hope. So Quill was like, or
You're also going
Quill.
back to like third grade science class. You're like, so how long can he survive? And his face is getting cold. And
Uh,
now I'm all of a sudden in Total Recall, and I know that's not right. Like
I,
this is my
dude,
science of knowing how a body survives in space.
when Groot's arms went out and they started freezing, I was like, oh my God. Like that was the last hope. Like I thought Groot's arms will stretch out and pull him there.
Yeah.
And he couldn't do that. I
But
was
he's
like,
also
no.
like half god, right? Like he's like half celestial or something, right? So there's that
Dude,
still.
Groot, like if you read like the the pseudoscience about him, it's so clever. And if they're like whoever picks him up now that James Gunn's gone, if they follow it, he's like, you know how like plants use photosynthesis? He uses it, but like in the form of like knowledge. And, Rocket's a genius. Peter's like a, pirate, like schemer. So like Groot is like becoming like one of the smartest beings, like technically. It's
Oh,
pretty
like
cool.
he like absorbs
Yeah,
knowledge.
that's like how he grows. And like the
Okay.
little baby one has seen and done so much that he's like unlike any other being,
Yeah, he was
technically.
interesting in this one too. I mean, he was kind of
He
like
was
a
a college kid.
mature young adult. Yeah, like it was, but they
He was a
depicted it
bro.
really well. Yeah,
I liked
and
when
he
he
can
like
say other things, I guess. So I thought that was
no, that was us understanding him. That was the audience understanding
whoa,
Groot. I
whoa.
know because we've been with him so long. Now we understand him. That's what James Gunn said.
Oh, he did. Oh,
Yes,
that's fun.
dude, you got to listen to the interview. He goes into like all the stuff, like when they fired him, and he was like, my life was like at the darkest, and then instantly it was, I felt more love than I ever had in my entire life, and it picked me up, and Warner Brothers came knocking and said, you can do any movie you want, and they were like, you can do Superman, and he was like, no, I'll do Suicide Squad, but I'll do it the right way, and they were like, sure. And I
Oh, so
mean,
he
if you
came in
watch,
and did the Suicide Squad.
yeah, the one with Cena and Idris Elba,
Yeah, that was good.
the good one. Yeah, I love
Yeah, that
that
was
one
good.
with the Starro
Again, it was like lower. It lowered everything,
characters.
but then it also kept some sort of seriousness so that we knew that like they could die or something, and we should care. I feel, yeah. Oh God, I just I can't understand how you like the Flash movie. I just don't. There's just so much
It doesn't
not
take
good about it.
much.
Like also the Flashpoint story is so good. The fact that they
Uh
didn't
huh.
really tap into it is like okay. And then also
Well, you knew that. I knew they weren't. I was like, they're gonna like, they're gonna do like one or two things from that, and they did.
why Zod
And
though? Like why Zod of all
what a waste of Michael Shannon, huh?
like
It's
well, it
like,
just doesn't
ah, he's
even
one of
make
the best actors
sense.
ever.
It just doesn't even make sense. Like I don't understand how they even
Because this
fight
movie
Kryptonians. It just doesn't even like maybe they're weaker or something in this. Like the problem with the multiverse thing is like you're telling me that they're
there's
showing
no
up and you're
stakes.
telling me that there's this threat, but you're also assuming you're kind of giving me the assumption that the threat is exactly the same, right? Like he's here for the cryptex or what like but
The Codex.
the codex and
It's hidden in a baby.
yeah
We
so
killed the infant.
so that changed, I guess, like that didn't so I don't know, it just
The
kind of
infant didn't
seems
survive.
that was actually the coolest line I feel like of
I
the whole
know.
movie
I was like,
was
let's no, no, hold on. Let's back up. Let's shave off a half hour on each end of this movie and dedicate it all to this part of it because I'm way more interested in like the Supergirl. What is Clark in this? Like that. Yeah. What did
or
you do?
I like why didn't you just simplify it? Like if things are different, you don't have to have him show up with an army. You don't have to have him come with a dubstep machine. Like you could just have him show up It could just be him. That's enough of a threat. Just
Yeah, that's
Zod.
all you need. He's invincible.
And maybe Zod's a bit different this time. That could be
Yeah.
fun. What if Zod's actually sort of nice? Maybe he's not General Zod.
Uh,
Maybe he's like why is he the same?
right. What if he was like a coaxer? Like he came in peace.
Yeah.
And then eventually he turns. Why does it have to be like war right away?
Or what if the girl that's with him is
Zod.
like wants war and he doesn't or something, and Zod's like an ally in the movie, right? And maybe they dress Zod up in a Superman costume or something. Like that would be fun,
That
you
when
know?
see when she said no and then turned around and said yes so quick, I was like, no, do more no. Like, what is she gonna do? Like maybe go join Zod for a little or yeah, like
I
yeah,
was
there was a
trying to
bunch of
figure out.
setups.
I was trying to
Bunch of
figure out for a
setups.
while because in the Flashpoint story, it's Superman and he arrived as a baby and then they locked him up like immediately. So he was trapped in that container in Cadmus, or it wasn't. I don't think it was in Russia. It was in the U.S., which I don't know why
Hmm.
they changed that. I feel like it's way more complex to make it in the U.S. But if you put it in Russia, it's just like, all right, I guess Black Widow's in there too. And
The radiation.
the well,
Like in Secret Invasion. They're hiding
yeah,
there because no one goes there.
but it's not our radiation. It's red sun radiation. Like they So they kept Superman in the
Oh.
container and kept him under the red sun
Oh,
his
that
entire life. So he had
makes him
never seen the
regular.
sun. So when they found Superman in the Flashpoint, he was like thin.
Yeah,
He
like
was just
she
like a
was.
skeleton, you know.
But
And
not
but he also didn't like know anything. Like he had like very low intelligence. Like he was like very like
he was like a
friend.
caveman.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He was
dumb
like
dumb dumb.
friend. Yeah, dum shoot. You know. So, which is fine because it made it like more interesting because you're used to like chiseled, strong Superman who has like Kryptonian intelligence, so they say. So he shouldn't just run up
Right.
and punch things at first instinct. But like to me, that just seemed so much more interesting. And I get that they can't tell the same story over again, but then they also don't go with like the Thomas Wayne being Batman and Martha Wayne becoming the Joker. Like that's that was such a great dichotomy right there. It just seems like such a waste, to not have these things. But have it be Kara, okay. But again, like you said, like her time, like they don't really develop it at all. So they left her no time in the movie to become something. And
No, I
then
wanted way more of her. Way
she's
more.
like she's like no, I don't want to. And then all right, I'm ready.
Oh, I'm gonna save his life, and now I'm gonna help you fight Zod.
I think
It's
that's
like,
where the app joke was, on the roof. Like he was saying something to her and she was like, all right, well, like I'll go. And he's like, well, I'll just get an Uber or something like.
I
But
can't remember.
the stuff with the
Um,
Batwing was awesome. Like anything
yeah,
Bruce Wayne was awesome. I don't really understand how the technology kept up to date if he shut it all down a while back, but I'd let that go. I kind of wanted to see the big yellow duck, like as a trophy.
yeah,
Like I kind of wanted to have the duck be a trophy.
or at least the big penny.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That would be interesting because then it would be like, oh, what would I want to see, like him have the big Penny Keaton moment? Because Two Face didn't really have that. I'm assuming that's the same world, right? But I guess it's not the same world, right?
Right, the
Like because I
spaghetti.
guess because Clooney came out.
That was cool. Yeah, I was like, it is like there's just so many parts of it where I'm like, I never thought I'd see that. That like I kind of just skip over the parts where I'm like, dumb, dumb, you deserve no awards at all. Like it took you 10 years. No, actually, dude, they announced this movie in 2008, a year before the Flash TV show even came out.
Oh, because they were gonna
And
do Flash and then Justice League.
yeah, it was gonna, yeah, and like director change, uh all the problems with Zack Snyder, the Justice League thing, all the big huge mess at DC. And it's like you had all this time and this is what you pieced together. For me, it was like there was enough cool oh, that's awesome parts to get me through all the like just missed opportunities and laziness.
Hmm.
But did you see Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the sequel to the Oscar-winning Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse
Yeah,
animated
I
film
loved Into the
by
Spider Verse.
Sony?
I loved it a lot.
You
It's
love the
very good.
first one?
I like the first one a lot.
It took me a while. At first I was kind of like, okay,
I would say across the
cartoon.
universe, across the yeah, but it was different. It was like
I,
I love the unique style. I love the music.
I didn't catch
Um,
on to the uniqueness of it and how they were like all different animated styles and how Miles was moving at like X frames and then the other guy was moving like at more.
yeah,
I didn't notice all that the first like couple times I watched it, and I was just like, "Yeah, Spider-Man." And then the kids are in the room. I'm never like sitting down and watching it. And then finally, when I got through it from start to finish, I was like, "Oh, this is so endless." It seems like,
yeah.
and I was a fan. I appreciated it,
No, I really liked the
but it
first
took
one.
me a while.
Yeah, you went out of focus there for a sec.
I know.
The I guess I'll say this. I feel like this Across the Universe was I was very excited for it, but one thing I really didn't like was it it felt like the Matrix Reloaded. Like it felt like like and I guess I found out later that they were making another movie after it, but it felt like the whole movie was just a
Yeah,
setup for like a third movie. And
yeah.
as much fun as all the Spider-Men were and all like the billions and billions of Easter eggs, like I feel like as far as an Easter egg hunt goes, I don't think there's going to be a movie that can possibly top
It
Into
was
the
like
Spider
endless.
Verse and Across the Spider Verse, and I can't even imagine
It's.
what the next one will be.
I
But
know.
it's like
Yeah,
because I think, but I feel like every frame, like you could pause any frame and it would be like a work of art, right? Like so, if you paused any frame of that movie, it would be like a perfect still
Dude,
of
there was like two times in the movie where I swear I didn't, but on the tip of my tongue was, can we rewind that? Because I was like, I need to see that again. My eyes have to see that again. I can't like wait days or weeks to see it again.
yeah. There was too much happening in some of the scenes, like where they were
It was a lot.
like I couldn't even understand how somebody got to like around somebody else or move to the other side. Like I couldn't even my brain couldn't catch up to how fast things were happening. And yet other parts of the movie just drug on and they didn't
Uh,
really add to it. Like they kept going back to like his parents and things like that. And I'm like, I feel like we figured out the parent thing in the last movie.
uh,
And so them like going back to this like trust, like Spider-Man grounded thing was just really tough. I did like the twist. I did like like I didn't catch it.
Me neither. I
Again,
didn't know
being
what was
honest,
going on.
uh, I didn't catch it, but I do remember early on hearing you know that they were saying that he was from like he got bit by a spider from another universe, right? And so that made a bit more sense as far as I was like, oh, okay, if he got bit by a spider from another universe, there might be like he might be mixed in between both, which kind of I thought he would start like degrading again or something like that. But instead it was that big spider thing that comes down reads him as being from that other universe. And I was like, oh, okay, that was a cool way to do it.
I
I didn't think
know
about
the
that.
spot, dude, but I know the fighting with the spot in the beginning when he's like kind of taking him lightly and the spot is like going in one hole and making another hole and Spider-Man's webbing him and webbing through a hole and then webbing over.
Oh yeah.
That like I don't know
The
how
portals. Yeah.
like they made this thing all at once. So the part 3 comes out in a year in next June. Um that the fight scene with the spot, I don't know how that didn't take like the majority of the time because it keeps going and going. And I could never, yeah, like you said, like I could never keep up with it because
Yeah.
they were moving so
We
fast.
we were stuck enough when like Doctor Strange strung him up with his own web,
Right.
and that
Yeah.
was
We're
like
not,
two
yeah.
portals, and we were
Yeah.
like,
Right.
"Whoa, slow down," you know.
Right.
So the fact that they dropped all these in there, I was like, okay, I
It
have
was
no idea
unreal.
what's going on. You could have just fooled me. Like I don't know if somebody sat down and did the physics of this. If they did, great. If not, I don't have the degree to tell you if you're wrong, right?
I
So
know. I can't wait to have it, like on digital, able to watch it multiple times just because not only because it's I mean, I enjoyed the movie for the most part, but you're right. There were so many and then his parents we're growing up and I'm getting older and I'm responsibilities and blah blah. But visually, like when they go
I
to
can't knock it visually.
Mumbattan, which is like
Yeah,
Mumbai and Manhattan. I
yeah,
thought that guy was so funny.
yeah.
He's
I
from
like the
Deadpool,
yeah.
the voice guy. He's I forget his name in Deadpool, but he's like the
Is he
Uber
the driver?
driver.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
taxi driver, whatever
yeah.
you want to
Taxi
call
cab driver. Um, Brown Panther. He calls him Easy Brown Panther.
it. Yeah,
Um, and
Dopinder, right?
then
Like Dopinder.
Dopinder. Yes, I was like, I know it's a cool name. Um, the 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 twist with the spider punk and the way that he looked and how he moved every 4 frames uh, was so cool. I can't wait to see that again.
Yeah, that definitely made it a bit like deeper because it was like they're not. It's not like an army versus him. It's like everyone still had their individual opinions
I was
about like
like,
what to
that
do. You know?
makes so much sense character wise. He would be the one to help out the one rebel.
Yeah,
It's really cool. I was pretty pumped about that, especially just because I just liked how he hated everything. He was like, "You think I'm going to show you my secret identity?" And it was like another Spider-Man mask on him. And then they were like, "How do you look cooler with your mask off?"
yeah. No, it was good. It was like, and I liked how they talked about like the Tom Holland's Spider Man and stuff like that. How they like quickly referenced him. They're like, don't get me started on the Doctor Strange like mix up
On
and
that little nerd in
that little
Earth One Nine
nerd.
Nine Nine Nine.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Is
I
that
bet
like
you he'll.
cemented in then? Is that now the MCU is 199999 or is it like I thought they were doing 666 or
That's a tangled web because Kevin
but
Feige says it's 616,
no,
but
but
that's the
616 is the comics,
I
right?
know.
He must be
Yeah,
mistaken.
no,
He
like
needs to be corrected.
him and Aman Vellani, the actress who plays Kamala Khan, she like openly has like she's like he's wrong. It can't be 616. She's like I don't care if he's my boss. Like he's wrong. The comic books are 616.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
but
even in the comic books, there's like the Ultimate Universe, which is different, right? And
right,
like,
right. But at one time in an interview, Feige did say Earth 199999, and then that stuck, and that was like a known thing until most recently, where he said it's 616.
well, the other thing is that if you're in that Earth, right? Like, I think the joke is that every Earth thinks that they're Earth One,
Right. That's what
right?
it was the big argument about Doctor Strange. I'm like, well, okay, 838 calls themselves 838 and us
Right.
616, but what does 212 call everybody? Do they even
Right.
have numbers?
Right. Right.
Like
So at some point, like when they connected, they could just clear it up with like one quick line about like a database sort. They're like, nope, sorry, they voted and their database won, so now we're 815 or something. You know, like it'll just be like something that it doesn't have to match, right? Because nobody should have a clear understanding of all the multiverse and Spider Verse. As long as it works for them, it's fine.
right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you can bob and weave, but that's the thing about the multiverse. There's two things I'll say because I know we got to hop off here.
Oh yeah,
Endgame put expectations on any superhero movie to like an unachievable level. And over the past 3 years, that's just been obvious. Like the intake, the financial intake for these Marvel movies just is going down
Yeah.
because people keep thinking that this movie's gonna be it's gonna make $1 billion. It's gonna be the greatest thing ever. It's like, but you weren't thinking that when you saw Thor 2 and Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3. Like an Ant-Man 1. It didn't have to be the greatest payoff with the biggest stakes. And it's so strange that we're not like, oh wait, shit, we have to reset because now they got to like lay all the groundwork for another 10 years to build up to another big payoff.
Yeah.
It's weird.
But I mean, they're also, to be fair,
But
they're
it's
also flushing all of their characters down the toilet. Like, they're basically taking everybody that just saved the world in Endgame and telling us they're all idiots. Like, the Hulk is an idiot, the Doctor Strange is an idiot, Spider-Man's an idiot. Like, how is everybody an idiot? Like, it
yeah.
doesn't make sense. Like, it's cool if they want to take some time off. Just say like they want to take some time off. Like Hawkeye's just getting old. He doesn't want to do this anymore. Right? Just say that. Don't make it look like he can't do it anymore. He obviously
Right. Like,
can keep doing it. The Hulk can keep smashing. And he can smash better than She-Hulk. I'm sorry. But also he like things like that, like he saved her, right? Like why not make things like complex? Like if you're going to introduce new characters, use the stories that makes them complex, right? Like She-Hulk broke at the moment where he didn't save her or have to give her his blood in order to save her life. That is the conflict. That is the key to
right.
She-Hulk's conflict, right? Between the Hulk and
Ah,
She-Hulk, right? Like if
you
he
might have
doesn't give
skipped that.
her his blood
His
in a
blood.
last ditch effort to save her because nobody's around to save them, then
She'll
you're
die.
missing the whole point. It's not that she's weak, it's that he had to do something without her agreement. And now she has to live
Ah.
her life as the She-Hulk that she didn't get to
See,
choose. Like, how do you miss that point?
See,
When
that is not the voice of a cynic. That's someone who's like, here's the real good part that makes it unique, that you
that's their
can go
core.
all these different places with,
Otherwise,
right? It's also the core character. It's like Luke growing up in the city instead of a farm.
yeah, it's
It's like,
it's it's
whoa,
it's
he's
that's
not Luke.
what makes them unique. If you don't do that, then they're just punchy. Like there's nothing else to them. Like if you don't give Superman a heart, he's just punchy strong man. Like it's not Superman. Like that is the point. The point
If
is
you
that he
don't
doesn't
show,
punch. The point is that he can take a cat out of a tree and hold it gently, right? Even
uh,
though he could lift up the entire tree. He could break half the world in half if he wanted to, right? But he doesn't. That's the point. Like Batman could outsmart everybody, right? But he doesn't all the
he lets
time. He
some
could
people
he
save the
lets
day.
he lets some people save the day, and he can coordinate and be a statistician and coordinate attacks and come up with the plan, even if he's not the gun that pulls the trigger, right? So it's like
More
it's
than
it
one dimension. It's like
yeah.
instead of just a cool raccoon that's wise ass and likes weapons, he was like a science experiment and a tortured animal who kind of like turned the worst situation into like there's so much more to him than just hey, he's a cruel wise cracking raccoon. Like
He was
that's
hated
like
because he was smarter than his
than
creator.
his creator. Yes, God,
Damn.
it was so good. That's so good. And
And
it's
then
like,
he's
oh, you
paired up with
idiot, you should
Groot,
be
right? Like
proud.
so if you take
Big dumb
your point
tree.
about Groot, yeah, but he's paired up with Groot who's absorbing knowledge, which you've said, right? Now you're on
Yeah.
that path, right? So now we have this little inkling that it's like we knew Ratchet was or Ratchet, Rocket Raccoon was smart.
That's what
I know I keep calling him Ratchet.
you're only a genius on earth, pal.
He like he's able to put things together very quickly and come up with plans. So we knew that he was smart, but we didn't understand what level of smart he was at. Like that he could like fix the equation for creating life or accelerating life, right? Smarter than his own creator, right? And I mean that just makes
How did you know?
that's such a great arc. But still, it's like he's still not going to let like the dumb walrus go, right? Like he achieved more than what was the guy's name? The all creator. I can't
The High
remember.
Evolutionary.
High evolutionary. Great.
Herbert Wyndham.
You know, he's higher than him, yet he still wants to save like the walrus and the bunny with the claptrap and stuff. You know, like it's like because he knows where the heart is, right? Like he knows what's right, and that's why we cheer for him. The problem with a lot of the heroes, like the Flash and stuff, like I don't think they know what's right. So why would I cheer for them?
I know,
You
they're
know,
always like confused.
they're just out of breath. It's not even like they're not even considering it, right?
Right.
Like
Always
Gamora might
always out
not
of
be
breath.
right, but at least I saw her consider it on screen without words for 20 seconds. It took 20 seconds for me to just wonder what she's thinking, go through all the
I
thoughts
know.
in my brain of what I would do in that situation, what I'm hoping for, but also what I'm hoping for the development of her character, right? Like all those things are going on, and it's not like an 18-minute Back to the Future joke. It doesn't
I
add.
know.
Like I
The
get it,
Back to
it's a
the
different
Future
universe.
joke.
I heard it the first time, and you're going to keep going into it, and for some reason we're in this weird like apartment. Like it just reminded me of an apartment like in college I just didn't want to be in. I'm like, get me out of this room. Like I don't want to be there while everyone's waking up. Like it just felt gross. And then they're
When
making
they're
these jokes.
making
I'm like, get me
when
out
they're
of here.
making the joke about the guy who shot like more than half of Back to the Future and then was replaced by Michael J. Fox, I wanted to turn around and tell the audience like what was going on because I was like, hardly anybody fucking knows this. Like, this
Nobody
is
would know
not
that.
common
Yeah, I didn't
knowledge.
even know it until like years ago. Like I like when I used to watch Back to the Future nonstop. I didn't know that. That's like a special like bonus like behind the scenes thing that you found out way later. Like nobody knew that right from the get go unless you were following movies back then, which meant you had like a newspaper subscription and you like
And you're
turned to
pretty
the
old.
entertainment page. Like yeah, and you had to be like 20 in the 85, right? So I don't know.
Or
It
you
just
saw the Michael J. Fox
that's
documentary
you know what that's like when
that
people
came
say
out
like,
like
"Oh, I knew
3 weeks
Vader.
ago.
Darth Vader means Dark Father," and I already knew that. Like they tried to do that in that singing movie, and it's like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. Like there's no way you watched Star Wars the first time because George Lucas didn't even know. So how on
Yeah,
earth did
I
you know?
know.
Like you watched
That
it, you're
was
like,
like
"Oh, his name's Dark Father. Well, then he must be Luke's father." It's like, okay, couldn't he just be Dark? What if they named him Dark Father? Let's just say they named him Dark Father instead of Darth Vader. Like, let's just say that. That doesn't like I'm not like whose
Dark
father is he? Like I
Father.
wouldn't even think that. You know, there's like
Why would Emperor call him Darth Father? Because I know you have kids, but we're just going to pretend I don't.
yeah. I don't want to remind you of your kids, but I've chosen this name specifically to not remind you of those kids.
Some intern came up with that in like a book that like, you know, they sell at Sears that I get every year for Father's Day for my mother-in-law. And George Lucas was like, yeah, fine, whatever. Get out of my office.
Sounds cool enough. I don't know. They probably
Ask
weren't
for
even thinking
money.
of the German. They weren't like, well, German is in this. But yeah,
Right.
I don't know. Like making those assumptions, I just don't see those happening. But I'm excited. I'm
Um,
excited for newer things.
yeah, I think
Did
you
want the
need to
Superman Batman high five though. I would have really just enjoyed that. Even though it wouldn't have made any sense, I would have
or just
allowed it.
or even like a, you know, just yeah, some sort of like the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Like something like that.
80s. Or it would have been cool if that Superman was in like he's like, "Oh, we already had our Superman. He died in like a nuclear blast or like Lex Luthor killed him or something." Like, why not just say that? Why not just say that it was Christopher Reeve and he died
A
in a
horse.
he didn't get the nuclear bombs in time or something. Like just make up finally Lex Luthor made land and crushed him
Dude,
with
they
it or something, you
or
know, like
he timed an eclipse so that Superman was a little underpowered.
That would be
Uh,
great. Like then
something.
you could just tie it together instead of there not being any Superman. Then it makes more sense with Kara because now Kara shows up and Superman's already dead, and then they're like, oh, they also put the cryptex in you. It's a little bit more interesting. And then in the parallel universe, he sees Christopher Reeve through one of these windows and gives him like a nod, like, ah, my old friend. You know, like they could have even had like they could have had a world's finest montage in there where it was like, yeah, we went around fighting and he really helped me out and he helped me figure out how to
Oh, I
stop crime and
know.
I did that and it's like I just really miss my friend and that's why I've grown a large beard. That's why I've become a wizard because I saved everybody and I couldn't save Superman.
I couldn't save the guy who saves everyone.
Think about that. That would have been so much better if Batman's depression was because couldn't save Superman.
Dude,
And then
that
he would have had a
is
connection to Kara. Then he would have had more of a connection with Kara because Kara would have been like the representation of like his family. So he would have been way more protective of her. And she wouldn't have even understood why, but she would have known that this guy was like the best friend. Oh my God. Why did they?
why don't they even care?
That would have been
I
so
think
good.
it would have been really cool if when the globe's spinning around and you see that it's Christopher Reeve's Superman, he looks and you see Michael Keaton notice him. And Superman, you be Christopher Reeves, you say, "You're Batman." And
You're
then
Batman. Okay.
I'll do what Michael Keaton says. Okay?
You're Batman?
I believe a man can fly.
They say their catchphrases.
I need a new mask.
They say their catchphrases. Oh, that's good. I
Yeah,
like
you
it.
know.
I think that would really improve that movie. I think I fixed the
It's like
Flash, like just
if
talking
they're
it out.
if they're doing that, it's like if they're going to do
Like Christopher
a
Reeve's dead, so they could do that. So they could just say that he's dead. They're already teetering on doing CGI or, deep fake, whatever. So deep fake some like quick montage so it's not like a big drawn out thing. Never really see the details, but they become like
right,
friends and you could just
like they did.
you could even have them like be like at the coffee shop like they do in like the superhero thing, like in the how it should have ended, right? Like where they're like they end up in the superhero coffee shop like talking to each other. They could have actually, I mean, not in their costumes, but they could have,
That's
it could have been like
so
him and
good.
Clark Kent like talking with one another.
Right.
And then
Right.
and
Yeah,
then
and it
and
could
then
be
and
far
then
away.
and then like Joker or somebody killed him. I don't know if the Joker lived. I kind of wish they would have answered that if the Joker had lived. They did the bag, but it would
Oh,
have been
that
neat
was
to find out.
awesome.
Because that was like the
See
thing at
this
the end. Like
bag?
you weren't
Open
sure
it
if he
and it
was.
laughed.
I mean, I guess it was pretty obvious he was dead. He dropped from like the tallest tower ever and
But it
landed
was
on concrete. Like I don't know how that gets pulled off as far as like what the Joker got in store. He got like blimps and a really long gun made, but I don't think he got like anything to save him from like that
from his
drop.
organs
Yeah,
mushing.
unless he got like a body double and like got like caught onto something and then dropped his body double, which was around for some reason. I don't know.
I
Either
think
way, I think that would have worked. I think that would have worked. It could have been Lex Luthor that killed him, right? Like it could have been. You could have just
oh
said
yeah, dude,
Gene Hackman, and then you could have had Gene Hackman in it. That would have been fun.
I'm pretty excited to isolate that like 45 seconds. Well, maybe it was like a minute and a half of you basically doing the exposition dump of why Superman is not, like that back filler.
That would
Uh,
work though. That wouldn't that
that
tie everything together? And I mean, except for the Barrys, like
and Michael Keaton's delivering the things that you said. Like I don't remember it word for word, but when you were saying it, I was like, this is way too easy, and they just it was. I swear, it's like 7 different people wrote this movie,
yeah,
and they mushed it all
that's what it
together.
is. It's just all these chops. It's all these. It's so rough. It's like
Because that's what it is. I mean, there
give me a
was
damn conversation. Just give
right.
me a conversation with limited dialogue. Conversation, limited dialogue with character growth. That's all I want. I just want a little nourishment. The thing is like when I watch these DC movies, no nourishment. no nourishment whatsoever, just junk food, just chips and dip. And I'm like, when am I gonna like actually eat something that's good? It's just chips and
Yo,
popsicles.
dude, Agnew, it's so true with The Flash. Like I said, like I liked it, but there was also like in between all the stuff that I liked, there's all these things that's why like I haven't done like a review for it because I'm like, I don't know. I can't squeeze all my thoughts about the things I did like and didn't like about this movie into like a quick review.
Yeah,
Uh, and Spider Across the Spider Verse, but mostly Guardians. Guardians was one of the like most like emotional theater experiences I've had in such a long time, maybe ever. Like
agreed. It. I don't know if
I
it.
came out of there like with shit off of me. It was crazy, man.
I don't know if it. Yeah, I was like, did it just trick me? Like, did something happen? Like, did they play something from my childhood that I wasn't aware of? Like, was it like the death scene from Bambi or something that they just like snuck in the background? And I'm like, why am I so sad about this otter? Like,
I know.
I
I
don't.
couldn't
But
believe it.
I feel like even the acting from the otter was better than most performances I've seen in comic book movies.
She's like one of the best voice actors. I think she
Whatever,
does
fantastic.
Ahsoka in the Star Wars things.
Like amazing. Just I bow to you. Like that was it was good. Like I like you
Not
had
every
me. Like
time.
it was like everyone's mom. It was like like I think that's what it was. It was just like she was everybody's mom.
Yes, she felt so like big sister or mom.
And so you just got this like anger inside of you. Like it's like when you hear it, you're like,
Ah.
you're done, dude. Like you're done.
And
There's nothing.
when they shot all three of them and Rocket just stood there and screamed, I like did the same thing, but like in silence. I was just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
no, you mother. I was like,
because
I
it was
didn't
because
think they were going to kill
it
them.
was so
Fuck.
good as far as like the worth of everything, right? Like there was no point to it. There was
No,
no need. It's not like
but,
this like little otter is a threat. Like
but it wasn't like it didn't make sense. It's like, oh yeah,
it
he looks at them as like nothing.
but
Of
he looks
course.
at them like nothing, but why even waste the bullet? You know, like
Uh,
why like the bullet is worth more than them. Like that was like the crazy part about it because it was like he didn't have to
of course.
and he did. But that's what makes a good villain, right? They didn't have to, but they did. You
Hmm.
know, and like that's
Yeah.
kind of the
Hmm.
that's like it was good to have a good villain too. Like he was
Chuck Woody
goofy.
Awuji.
He was goofy, but he was also kind of like determined, and he also kind of ran this world. But like it was good. It was a good contained villain. And we haven't
Hmm.
had a good contained villain in a while, you know, with
Yeah,
everything that's been.
there's like 20 minutes of Christian Bale cut out of Thor that like,
Oh,
would
you know what?
probably make him scarier and better and actually have
There's nothing
some
that
sort
would
of
that would save him from that. I mean, there was nothing I had against Christian Bale's acting that like
it was like Thor's invincible. We know he's not going to get hurt unless it's like Thanos again
yeah.
or somebody who can like has magic like Gore has shadow monsters. I was like, no, he doesn't.
Well, it's just like tone. It was just
Just the
tone all over
sword.
again, right?
Right.
And then
Clunky.
the Flash even tried to steal the Endgame scene with Thor, right? Like like they basically recreated that scene, and instead of saying like I'm a witch, I know what's going on, like she was just like, "Oh, you're a lost boy, like I'll
Oh
give you some
yeah.
advice," and it's like that's how
Oh
they
yeah.
explained it away. But it was like almost word for word the same scene as Thor, right? Except for Thor did it about a billion times better.
Oh yeah, I know. Him and
Because like we were even
Russo.
crying like at that point because it was like, "Hey, I'm your
That's
mom,"
one of the
like,
best.
and you know what? Eat a salad, you know, like and it's like, but mom, you're gonna. She's like, I know, I'm a witch. I already know the future. Like I'm already gonna. I already know what I'm walking into. Like I already like, don't worry about me. It's like it was like the
That
most
scene is
consoling.
so good.
God,
Oh, kills me.
and it
Kills
was
me.
and
I'm like, what a
even
good
it being
mom.
like this like time travel scene, sort of breaking
But
the other movie, like sort of doing all these things. It was still fine because it was like they relaxed you in it. They were like, it's okay. Things are going to be all
yeah,
right. You're like,
it
okay.
was it was like no matter what universe you pop into, that version of your mom will still be like, will treat you like her son.
Yeah. So
Remember, she's like,
I think that's
yeah,
what does it,
I'm totally from the future.
Yeah, I'm totally from the future.
So good.
It is such a good breakdown of like you're not gonna be able to lie to your mom. And like he
Right.
also like just like went off on his own thing. Like Rocket's like, all right, like let's go in here. Like we have this strict mission to save the universe or whatever, And he's like, he just goes left.
Just turns around.
It's like
Thor.
it's like so good. And I think they accomplished that again with the otter. Like I think they have to take things that represent something for us, and then
Mm.
like then you're able to apply those feelings, and then you're like, how did that hit me so hard? Like how did, like, because it was like this calming person, it was like this like in the scariest moment, like and you see, I think they slowly did it because you see Rocket as unable to speak, terrified, slowly coming around. You
Oh,
can see that she's also mothering the other people in the cage, maybe even just keeping like a false hope going, just to keep it going.
yeah.
It was a lot like Life is Beautiful when they're in the Auschwitz, and he's trying to he's tricking his son so that his son doesn't know what's going on. He just tells him it's all a game, and we get points for doing certain things. So it's like, oh, little did I know, like if we keep our mouths quiet, like if we're quiet during this time, the first person that makes a noise like loses 5 points. We're all gonna just be really quiet, and we'll get 20
Oh,
points by the morning,
oh
and
my
he,
God.
you know what I mean? Like, so to do all those sacrifices to keep everybody happy, it was just,
Right.
it just hits you, right? So
Yes.
bravo. I mean, like to be the third movie in an installment and still be able to do something like that isn't like it didn't have to be, okay, we did this in the second one, now we have to do it times
I
10.
know, I
Like
know.
it wasn't. If anything, it was more toned down than the second one.
Because it was still the same story from the second one. It was like what happened in the beginning continued into the third one. Like the what is it, the cause and effect. Like Rocket stole those batteries, and now those gold people are still after him because Ego saved them from him in the beginning, from them in the beginning of the second one. And then they fought Ego the rest of the movie. And now the gold people are back because there's
Yeah,
more of them. And
right.
they actually are creations of this psycho who actually also made Rocket.
It's crazy. Yeah, it was so
Yeah,
good.
it's amazing. So I think,
So yeah, I would put that up there, and then I'll put Spider Verse, even though I don't think much happened in Spider Verse. Like when you actually look at it, not much happened in the movie. It's a really long movie, but not much really happened. It was like there were jokes. Again, it was kind of like treats, but I didn't really get too much out of it. Like it was like a little bit
yeah,
about their
to me, it was
relationship, but nothing else really happened.
the highlights for me were the new Spider-Mans that I really liked, and just the art. Like even
Yeah,
though the Gwen
no,
the Gwen
beautiful.
stuff was real moody, but like the colors would shift when like she would get scared or
Yeah.
like when she would get happy, and it was like
And
watercolor
between her and her dad,
moving.
yeah, her and her dad,
Yeah,
like his representation and hers, and then it
and
merged at the end, and
we have daughters, so I was obviously like that was all
yeah,
super like
keeping the
relatable.
connection.
Like
Yeah.
yeah, with the pink tie, I liked it. But
All right.
I'm trying to think about what's next, movie wise on my plate. I didn't go to the movies on Father's Day. Heather was like, "You can go see two if you want," and I just never did. I built chairs.
Like IKEA
I had,
chairs,
I had like weird guilt. No, like nice barstool
but like
chairs.
furniture chairs you get to put together. I love that. I don't understand that thing where it's like people
I
don't like
used,
putting chairs together. Like I like give it like I'll do that all day. I
dude, I
will put
used to
chairs.
hate it until like it's like you do the mulch, and I'm like, that's like 4 hours of peace. That's like 4 hours of solitude. Even though it's backbreaking, it's still mentally like soothing.
Yeah, you just shut down. Like you don't have to think too hard. It's like I actually really
No
like
wonder.
when the review says like really great chair, horrible directions. I'm like, yes. Yes, I can't wait. Like I love it
I'm gonna beat this thing.
because yeah,
I'm
right.
going
It's
to beat
they're like
this.
they're like
I'm gonna put it together.
I'd rather it be like no directions, just nuts.
Just a picture on the front.
We're
We
not
don't
even
show
giving you
you
an
the
Allen
back.
wrench. Like you figure it out. This wood's your problem now. For Father's Day, we got to watch Star Wars. So the kids watched
I
Star Wars
know.
for the first time, and it was intense. They were not ready. Ruby had already read a stupid golden book that ruined it for her.
Oh no.
It had like
Pardon
little
me.
clips from pieces of it, but it basically it was just like a giant spoiler book. She got it out
Yeah, it
of
was just
some
like
like
the
library.
outline.
Yeah, it was like the outline of like all 3 movies. I'm like, cool. Like, who would make this? What idiot? Like, I mean, I get that it's been out for a while, but it's a golden book, so you obviously know you're giving it to a kid who hasn't seen the movies, right? So, anyway, so she knew some of the connections, so she was like, oh, she just kissed Luke on the cheek, Leo. Like she just kissed him on the cheek because she can't kiss him on the lips, but I can't tell you why. I'm like, okay, thank you. I'm like,
Does
wait
she
till you
know
see
that?
Empire. Yeah.
Does she know that that Luke, I am your father?
I don't.
Or no, I am your
I
father.
think she.
Pardon
I
me.
don't think she has that. Because she didn't hint
Okay,
at it at
good.
all. I think she just knows that Luke and Leia are brother sister.
Okay,
So it might be
so
a
that's
surprise,
good.
but I don't know if they're ready for Empire. Like I'm
Yeah,
like, because they're like, all right, like let's go to the next one. I'm like, no, you have to watch this one like 7 more times. Like you don't just go to the second one. Like no, I'm sorry, you're not. That's not the way we're working here. Like you
you
already had,
gotta let it
it was
sink
because there was
in.
like
This is a lot.
1,000 questions, and then we finished, and I was like, that was pretty cool with the Death Star. And Leo's like, what's the Death Star? I'm like, okay,
I
did you
didn't
watch any of
grapple the
those
Death
movies?
Star. There was like so much. There's so much coming at you that's so neat that it's like, did they even say Death Star in the first Star
Oh
Wars?
yeah, I don't even know if they did. They're
Like, I
like
don't even
this
know if they say it.
this technological terror. Like they just called it a
Yeah,
bunch of
right.
like other names. Yeah, they never actually
Or yeah,
referred to it.
if it was said, it was by a shrimp-looking man
Yeah,
who I couldn't hear anything he said the first 20 times because I was just looking at his face, so
yeah, they
distracted.
were probably like this Death Star. Like they didn't really say like together. They're like this star of death. Like
Yeah, it will cause death in the
yeah,
star.
you can't imagine like the rebels being like, let's give it a cool name. Like
Right, I know.
like that seems kind of counterintuitive. Like
The space station, I'm
yeah, the
pretty sure is what they called
Stingray.
it.
Like yeah,
The
so
space station.
but they enjoyed it, and they didn't. I asked them afterwards. I was like, "Did you think that movie was made like a long time ago or like recently?" And they're like,
Or
"Recently."
in a
And I'm like,
galaxy
"That
far from
seemed
me.
great." Yeah, they're like, but Ruby was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Where's Earth?" And I was like, "What did it say in the beginning?" She said, "A galaxy, like a long, long time ago, in a galaxy far away." And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "So Earth is there.
Oh,
They just
wow.
don't get to it. Like it's really far away." And I was
So
like,
there
"Yeah."
is an
She's like,
Earth. It's just really, really far away.
so she's like, it's in our universe then. I'm like, well, it's in our universe. Yeah. But it's like a galaxy far, far away. And it happened a long, long time ago. So they're not going to be around now.
Which sucks.
She was like, she was stewing on that for a while. And Leo was just meanwhile like, just running around all night, like with the TIE. Because now he got TIE fighters, but he didn't know what they were. Like he knew that they were Star Wars, but he
That's
didn't
right.
know
I got
what
the
they were.
toys before I saw the movie too. I like inherit. They were like hand-me-downs
Yeah.
from
So
like
then
an
you're
older
like,
cousin.
so then he was like looking at them, and he's like, "Oh, this Tie Fighter is awesome, and this thing's an X-wing. This is an X-wing." I'm like, "Yeah, that's an X-wing." And then he's like, "What's this one?" It was one of like the droids from the prequels. I'm like, "You don't know him yet. Just wait."
Oh,
They're like,
wow.
"Where's Baby Yoda?" And I'm like,
Oh,
No,
wow.
not yet." So
Jar Jar's saving them.
yeah, so it was they liked it, but Ruby was really hit by Han. Like I was surprised. Like she was like, "I can't believe he's going." Like she had to like stop the movie. She's like, I don't
Oh, when he leaves?
she's like, I can't believe he's just after the money, like after everything that like happened. Like she was
Uh,
like emotionally invested in Han, and I would not have guessed that like
wow.
at all. And
She's like, he's immoral, father.
she's like, and it was like right before,
Pirate,
you know,
smuggler.
Leia says it right on the nose, like she's like, if all of this money that you want, then it's money you shall have, like, but it was right
But
before that scene.
then,
We had paused it, and she was
but then
like,
when he saves the day,
yeah. So
and gets
I was like,
Vader
he came
off,
back. She's like, yeah, he wasn't about money. And then I
he
was
is a
wondering
hero.
if Ruby was going to notice that Chewbacca didn't get a medal, but as he was walking up, she was like, why is Chewbacca walking up there? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, Han's the captain. So like Chewbacca was even there at the end. Because all you really do see is like Han go, yeah, like you don't see Chewbacca. So
Yeah.
she's like, why is Chewbacca even there? And I'm like, I guess it's like his second in command. So I'm like, then I was thinking about the medal thing, and I'm like, well, maybe Ruby's right. Maybe he wasn't even there. He might have been like back on the base somewhere. Like maybe he wasn't even in the Millennium Falcon when.
No, he was
But
there. They left
but
together.
but maybe he like dropped him back. Like I don't know. Like he's not. Like I didn't see him.
It's true. They don't show Chewie when
They
Han
don't show
hits
Chewie.
Vader and sends him so
So
Luke
maybe
can.
Chewie like disagreed. Maybe Chewie was like, "No, we're not. We're taking this money back, and we're gonna go." Like, you don't know. Like
But
you never see Chewbacca's like argument, opinionated mannerisms, right? Like except for like when he was playing chess. Like, but he's supposed to have a temper, right? So maybe.
I thought it was just racist. I thought it was like the droids didn't get them. R2 saved their ass like
Yeah,
5
they're like,
times.
sorry, just humans. Like,
Yeah,
just
and
humans get
you
medals
just
here.
wax. Chewie will bathe you for the first time.
But we'll give it to you later
Second time.
when it really doesn't matter at all. And it'll be like an inside joke to all of us. But then I'll give it to you when you die. When I die, on my deathbed, I'll leave you a medal, and that'll be my last joke to you because it'll be the
Especially
last thing you're thinking about.
especially after you don't hug Leia right after Han dies. You let her hug Rey, who she met yesterday.
Yeah, Ray, I know you're really upset about that guy you just met, who gave you a gun, and that was apparently a big deal. Who offered you a job? I'm sorry.
Hated
I'm
you.
sorry. Your new boss, your first boss, that you've had since becoming a slave. Yeah, I'm sure you're really broken up about that because now you don't get that job. You can't be the captain of the Millennium Falcon.
No. Movie's over.
Chewbacca, don't worry about it. Like you knew he was going to get shot.
There's this kid who wrote a story about like what if the Force Awakens. It was like what if the Force Awakens was original, and Rey was like a young and up and coming new Sith, like in the shadows, like learning the Sith shit, like behind the scenes. And I was like, already better. It's already better. Like that's just there's so many more things you can do with this evil girl who could maybe become good by the end or die, whatever.
Yeah,
but it's already better.
It makes way more sense. It could have been the inverse.
The Dark Sisters or whatever.
Yeah, it could have just been like her path to good.
Right.
Right.
Path
like
to God.
Back to God.
Her path to God, Jimmy Stark. Just gonna take your pictures, pretty lady.
You want the moon, Mary? I'll reach up and grab it for you. I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down. I love you guys.
All right.
We'll end on that.
My tailbone's screaming.
Once you start doing Jimmy Stewart. That's where you got to call it.
When you do Jimmy Stewart, it's time to put the feet up and pull your pants up to your neck.
Come on, Bert. Tell me how much you really need. Come on, Bert.
Actually, like this. Now, come on.
He was so good. Somewhat enjoyable to watch. All right.
Oh, I know. He was amazing.
All right.
Love you, brother.
Sign it off. Love you too. Bye-bye.